Hello, everyone, and welcome to this presentation that I originally did at a bookstore when I first released my book, Loveaholic, which is a book designated to help people with relationship issues, love addiction, codependency, and anybody who's suffering from borderline personality disorder. It's very helpful, brings awareness. I called this talk the magic keys to communication that change relationships. In this first slide here, I just talk about our basic needs. Needs are intrinsic, and when needs are not met, we might act from a place of fear. This is primal behavior and is motivated from the emotional mind. The emotional mind, which is the hippocampus, amygdala, finds balance through information and reasoning, which is why is the rational mind or the frontal lobe. So basic needs come first, which is the drive reduction theory, and then developing relationships comes next with the need to be part of a group, tribe, or partnership. Needs are very basic. They're animalistic in a sense, going up to where the emotional mind, the amygdala, finds balance through information. Let me just expound a little bit on what that means. The amygdala, when engaged, of course, is going to give a fight, flight, or freeze response. And that's what causes all of the blood to basically rush out of our head into our muscles. The prefrontal cortex is not making rational decisions. If you've ever heard the term, oh my God, they're out of their mind, could be a perfect example of that. When you understand a situation better, it gives you more insight, and that insight in turn helps to calm the nervous system. Let's say we don't know what's happening. There's a loud noise outside. It sounds like a gunshot, and you're freaking out immediately. Boom, amygdala's engaged. And then you get outside and you just noticed someone just dropped a big board on top of another big board, and it made that loud clapping sound, and that's what created the noise. So immediately from understanding and information and reasoning, your body begins to calm itself naturally because you're not being engaged by fear. Those intrinsic needs basically lead to the next slide here, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what you're seeing here is the pyramid that he came up with basically to describe our needs and how they are met. So starting at the bottom, we just have our biological and physiological needs, which are basic: air, food, drink, shelter, warmth. Some people consider sex to be a basic need, and sleep. And then up above that, our safety needs, which are protection, security, and those allow us to thrive and survive. The next one up on that grid, or that pyramid, sorry, is belongingness and love needs, which are family, affection, and relationship. The way that this pyramid works is that once the basic needs on the bottom are met, then you move up to the next tier, and then the next tier. So the next one above that then are esteem needs, so achievement, status, responsibility, and reputation. Once you have that, then you move up to the next one, self-actualization, which is personal growth and fulfillment. Now, when I was studying this in school, I remember them saying that just a small amount of the population actually reach self-actualization, because having all four tiers before that one met tends to be kind of a rare thing in our society, just because of the need to survive is so basic. As you move up that tier, up those tiers, self-actualize, that's a very rare place to be, but it does come and go, and sometimes it can vacillate for people as well. Okay, so how do we develop low self-worth? We need to understand our worth and our needs before we can really even express ourselves and communicate. The first thing is obsolete information. So the effects of past failures can lead to low self-worth. And then our school and social relations also play a big part in our opinion of ourselves. When we start going to school and we observe the reactions and opinions of others about us and how they respond to us, it begins to tell us a story about who we are and how we see ourselves in social circles. And that can be either positive or negative. The next slide here is the distorted feedback that you can get from peers and parents. And so overly critical parents is the first one, cruel friends, uncaring teachers, which I know we've all probably had some kind of run-in with a teacher, and what they were going through that day had nothing to do with us, but it impacts us. Excessively demanding employers can be one, always feeling like you're failing. And then memorable strangers, which memorable strangers are people that you maybe admire, or maybe someone saw someone on the street and you were like, oh, I really like that person. And then they gave you some kind of negative or even positive feedback. and it impacted you in an emotional way. And then the third one is lack of nurture from caretakers. Of course, this one is probably paramount because it deals with connection and attachment. Of course, when children are young, if they have a more secure attachment, that means that they're going to have a healthier view of themselves and higher self-worth. Someone with a avoidant attachment parent or somebody that's not available, of course, they're going to develop more low self-worth because they're going to not think that they're worth the time that a parent would spend just to engage with them and raise them. On this next slide here, low self-worth leads to erratic behavior, codependency, feelings of powerlessness. That's a big one for people. No control over personal destiny, a stagnant lifestyle, jealousy, and negative judgment. Powerlessness really relates to childhood trauma as well, because at some point, somebody that's been hurt makes a decision that no one else is ever going to hurt them again. And also low self-worth, negative judgment of other people and other things. If you hear someone who's hypercritical of their surroundings, it's usually because they're scared. That also makes them feel like they're not worthy. It just all kind of leads back to one response, which is usually fear. Empathy is a way to connect and heal worthlessness. So love addiction is the result of feeling disconnected and unloved. The only difference between someone with high self-esteem and someone with a low self-esteem is a person with high self-esteem feels loved and connected to the world. By connecting with the world through empathy, we reconnect to inner love. Our inner dialogue changes. We like our own thoughts and start loving self. We assume everyone else loves us too. Empathy is the way to defeat feelings of low self-worth. And the way empathy works is you're basically seeing somebody going through a situation or feeling an emotion or dealing with struggle or whatever. They're having a victory. Maybe they've just landed a really fantastic job. Empathy is being able to engage with that person on the level that you see it and feel it within yourself. And in psychology, they call that those neurons that are engaged in the brain mirror neurons. And mirror neurons are basically like, oh, I'm going to reflect back. I can see what's happening. I'm going to reflect that back. Empathy is the deeper level of that, emotionally connecting to somebody. Thoughts from a mind with low self-esteem or fear beliefs. Okay, so all of our communication starts in our brain. And so if the brain is having these kinds of conversations, of course, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. This is that idea. So, with low self worth and separation from the self, your conversation can sound like he's a jerk. If you're empathetic, which means there's oneness and inclusion, one human mind, he's probably scared. I know what that's like. So, she drives like an idiot. She's probably preoccupied. People are selfish. People are probably doing the best they can. My mom is judgmental. Maybe my mom just wants the best for me. I mean, probably your criticisms are trying to help you be a better person, but it comes out distorted. They're always against me. We're all doing the best we can. Nobody loves me, which is a really strong black and white statement. And often people with trauma or dealing with any kind of low self-worth, everything's black and white for them. So nobody loves me. Nobody loves me. We all desire to be loved and included. I am lonely. We all experience loneliness from time to time. I'm worthless. I can see value in everyone. So not just in myself, but everyone, because what you do on the outside and what you view and see on the outside, you're also going to assume, they call it retrospect through analogy. And basically you're just like, oh my gosh, I can see it outside of myself. That must be true for me, or it must be true for me. So I must assume that about everybody else. It's sort of reciprocal. They think they're better than me. We're all excelling at what we are good at. So here's a positive thought cycle. High self-esteem, people that have learned to connect to the world through empathy, that's the key, have positive thoughts, and then those positive thoughts lead to desirable thoughts. Because when you're having a desirable thought, like let's say you're looking at a group of people instead of thinking those people are a bunch of jerks or idiots, or you're making negative assumptions about them. Your desirable thoughts from somebody who has a high self-esteem or can see humanity in other people, and that common humanity and they are able to say things like, "Oh, that looks interesting. That group looks like maybe they're having a good time," or it changes. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, "Oh, they're fantastic and wonderful." It could just be as simple as, "Wow, that looks like fun," or "Wow, I wonder what those people are doing." Curiosity is a huge one in communication because it breaks the staleness of your mind, the locked belief systems that we have. Curiosity opens that up. So anytime you ask a question or you just come in with any kind of like, "Ooh, I wonder if," that's a wonderful statement to bring into a relationship because it immediately breaks that paradigm down. And then a negative cycle on the opposite side: low self-esteem, negative thoughts, of course, undesirable behavior, and then negative thoughts again because you're like, "Oh, I hate what I just did." The next slide here, beliefs. Belief is an idea that was absorbed as truth, mostly in the formative years, which is from 2 to 7, when our brains are really making decisions and observing our immediate surroundings. This idea was then confirmed by evidence we chose to observe, and that's in psychology is called a confirmation bias. So here it says it's a tendency to search for and interpret information in a way that confirms one's preconceived notion. So if you already have an idea that the world is against you, people don't support you, everything that people say and do around you is going to support it. You're going to look for it. It's literally like self-fulfilling prophecy. A paradigm is a theory of a group of ideas about how something should be done, made, or thought about, and those are what create basically the way that we see the world. A praxis praxis is the practical application of a theory. So, like, once you've made up your mind about something, your brain engages, and that connection is what's called praxis. And then fixation is an inability to see a problem from a fresh perspective, which is really damaging in relationships because when you're communicating, if you don't see exactly eye to eye on something, shutting the other person's opinions down and their perspective will be an instant breakdown of communication. And of course, then that person feels alienated, shut out, and then it's a breakdown of trust at that point. So, emotion, let's talk about emotions. Energy is broken down into three main components. When you're talking about our bodies and the way that we function in the world, there are three types of energy reactions that we have: positive, and this is mostly like muscular, but positive, negative, and neutral. Perceptions are positive or negative or neutral, which is really interesting. Balance is created from seeing both sides. So let's say that you have made an opinion up about the color green and you hate it. In order to create balance from that, you learn to love green. So you meet it in the middle, like, "Oh, green's an interesting color." And neutral statements are not black and white statements, as you notice that statement I just made, interesting color. There's an observation. Oh, it doesn't come with a strong opinion of either side. It's sort of like a blanket statement. Emotions are created from perceptions, which are your beliefs of reality, and reality in itself is neutral. Like this desk here. It's neutral. There's no positive or negative opinion until we introduce one. I like this desk. That's positive. Energy passes through the body as emotions, and which is energy in motion. Negative emotions are negative perceptions. So basically, if you have a bad opinion about something, your emotional responses are going to be in alignment with that. And those must be balanced, of course, like we were saying before. And then positive emotions are positive perceptions, real simple, and must be balanced as well. So here we will view energy as contractive, stressful, and expansive, which is relief. Okay, so in this chart, what I'm talking about is emotional balancing, and this is one of the most powerful things you can do for your body somatically. Physiologically, your responses are going to be way more even. The body heals in a state of homeostasis, and the mind is very clear when you balance your emotions first. Here, the negative emotion would be fear. The behavior is contractive based thinking, cautious, afraid of the unknown, loss of being hurt. The relief statement would to be trust in yourself, ability to be flexible and adaptive to change. The negative emotion, anger, Time to create change, loss of control. The relief is create a plan, take inspired action, and see the positive in the situation. The negative emotion being sadness, there's an intense focus on loss or lack. And the relief statement is recognizing change of form or seeing the positive aspects of change. How is this benefiting me? Anxiety, the negative emotion, is frenetic energy and hyperactive ego. So the relief for that is channeling energy into hobbies, meditation, mindful breathing. Mindful breathing is just really just paying attention to that fact that you are breathing. That's just real super simple. People make such a big deal out of meditation and mindfulness and all this stuff. It's probably the most natural thing that your body does besides your heart beating. And then negative emotion, disgust, avoidance, showing disapproval and hesitation. The relief in that is acceptance, seeing beauty in others, and gratitude. Gratitude's easy. I mean, like, you could find one thing to be grateful for. I mean, sometimes when you're in that bad state, though, like, you're having a bad day, gratitude can be a struggle, but you can find your way out of any negative emotion, usually with some gratitude. Negative emotion being surprised, which is funny because you think surprise would be a positive thing, but in your fear, flight, fright, it's contractive. So the confusion and disillusionment, triggered memories of trauma, it usually is what is engaged, and then the relief of that is presence. So put your hand on your heart. That's presence, taking inventory. Okay, where am I? I'm safe in this moment, and then of course letting go is just releasing that fear. So true love is acceptance. And people think true love is like this mental process, but actually it's more of a somatic process. And humans conceptualize love to be synonymous with attachment. So I love him, her, or it. We've placed the love on an object when love does not really have to do with attachment. The true opposite of fear is indifference. Once you've gotten to a certain place in a relationship where you're indifferent, at that point you've pretty much lost all connection and attachment. And that's not necessarily a super healthy place to be, but love and gratitude and indifference are balanced emotions. So if you're having like a struggle with a partner or even a coworker or something, and you're like, oh my God, I hate this person, or man, they really hurt me. Finding balance and being indifferent about that situation really does help to sort of bring you back into that peaceful place where we're centered. And it helps us to also find love and gratitude in that space. And love is really just the expansiveness that we feel with ourselves and our essence. Indifference is neither good or bad. People have labeled that word, oh, you're indifferent, like you seem so distant or something. But indifference is neither good or bad until we identify it as such. True vibrational harmony is balance and detachment. So the Buddhists are very big on that. Balance and detachment. It's true vibrational harmony with life. And detachment's the ability to trust yourself and the process of life. It's very important to understand because once you trust life and just understand that anything can happen to you, and you're like, this is just process of life. It's not personal. Communication is an exchange of information. The medium of the way that you communicate is an idea through a chosen modality. So be mindful of your medium for communication. Phone calls, letters, emails, text. Important. Have clear intentions about your communication and know that communication cannot be undone. Once it's communicated, boom, it's out there. You cannot change the outcome. There's no getting the words back. The intention is there. People will hear that for the rest of their life. Just always be mindful. That's very important in an argument because sometimes when we're feeling fearful and engaged and aroused, words and things and ideas can come out that we didn't mean to release into the atmosphere, and you don't ever get it back. So it's very wise just to know that what you're communicating is intentional. Okay, self-fulfilling prophecy, law of attraction. I kind of talked a little bit about this in confirmation bias, but holding an expectation for yourself. So how do I want to be seen in this relationship? Do I want to be seen as loving, kind, controlled, anything that you have an intention for? Behaving in accordance with that expectation, and then the expectation coming to fruition. So that's like, oh my gosh, I behaved in a way, My intention for this expectation for this relationship is for it to succeed. And then you reinforce the original expectation. Oh, he gave me a smile or a wink or, whatever it is. Cognitive conservatism is the tendency to seek and attend to information that conforms to an existing self concept. So basically, if your concept of self is I'm successful in relationships, then your relationship's going to be successful. If you feel like you're going to fail, guess what? Probably going to self create that as well. Healthy communication is something that we all, of course, are striving for, and there are two different types of communication: depth and breadth. There are models of self disclosure. For example, you may have a breadth of conversation topics with a coworker, but no depth. The depth of conversation reaches breadth when trust is present, and this is important in relationships. Depth of conversation intensifies the deepest in a romantic relationship. You're going to engage more in those deeper, meaningful conversations with a partner than you would a coworker. Self disclosure is basically five different things in from what I've observed. Catharsis, getting it off your chest; reciprocity, helping others open up, which is basically like, I mean, in a mutual sharing situation, a lot of people like to use AA as an example. Self-clarification is talking the problem out. That's wonderful for people that are in a relationship, even at work, the street, whatever it is. Self-validation is seeking validation of behavior. So I think I did the right thing. We want people to, we're looking for that confirmation around us. Social influence is kind of creating what's called a bidding war. But you might say something like, "Oh, that company really wants to hire me," and then people are like, "Oh, what's so great about you?" That's a modality of self-disclosure. Now, the risks of self-disclosure and communication are rejection. You might not like who I am if I really tell you. The negative impression. So it could be like, I like the Broncos, or I don't like the Broncos. I do like the Broncos. My opinion might sway your opinion of me, of who I am as a person. It can decrease in relational satisfaction. So I don't really like to cuddle, but I like to be close to you. And sometimes there's that save, like you make the save and it's bold, brash, whatever it is, and then you save yourself after. Oh, but I do like to be close to you. We do that a lot for social acceptance. Watch yourself sometimes is really interesting. I've caught myself doing it all the time. Loss of influence. So I'm really scared of the dark. They see you as vulnerable, whatever. So you might not admit things openly. But in relationship, that does engage in intimacy and vulnerability. So hurting the other person, do these genes make me look fat? And we might lie. Benevolent lying is another one. Guidelines for self-disclosure. Is the other person important to you? Consider who you might hurt or lose. Are the amount and type of disclosure appropriate? Are you like oversharing? Is the risk of disclosing reasonable? So bite your tongue about your boss, you choose your battles. Is the self-disclosure reciprocated? Like, is that person meeting you halfway with their communication styles as well? And will the effects be constructive? Important below the belt comments like last summer I slept with your best friend, but like maybe you didn't. Just be careful what you disclose. Empathy and communication is remember that everyone has hopes, dreams, wishes, and fears. Honesty and communication expresses needs without bullying or shaming. Super important. Honest communication expresses emotion in a way that feels safe. I being the main recipient. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling angry. Empathy is the only weapon against negative judgment. Again, like we said, healing, common humanity, feelings of defensiveness, and low self worth are defeated with empathy. Empathy shows the mind that we are all one, connected, and loved. Empathy works reciprocally in this way. Love and understanding are shown, therefore, the mind believes that everyone's like me. Healthy communication skills are heartfelt expression of yourself to another human being, choosing a modality that's authentic. So you probably wouldn't text someone and ask them to marry you. Minutia of communication is being able to pick up intuitively which medium feels right for the situation. Again, don't break up over text or email. Creating a safe space, giving and receiving permission to share anything without judgment, fear, or disgust, coming up with a fun way to identify those moments with a code word or phrase. I love this because you could be talking with your partner and be like, pancakes. And immediately it's like, oh gosh, okay. detach, let's have fun. And then opening a space safe for children, spouses, and family members, important, especially in paradigms with abuse in the family, or people that have been traumatized. This last slide is really fun. It's called the Pillow Talk Method, and it was developed by Japanese school children. Interestingly enough, I learned about this at Naropa when I was studying contemplative psychology there. So basically, you're taking a person or an opinion. So the step one is choose a person or a viewpoint which you strongly disagree. If you select a person, it's advisable that you have them there with you, but if that's not possible, you can do this alone. Step two, place yourself in each position on the pillow as you encountered it. This may require some perspective shifting on your part. If completed correctly, you will have much greater understanding of the other person's point of view. Now, the goal here is to work your way around the pillow and then get to the middle. So both of your positions are correct and you're both wrong. At the top on the right, they are wrong and you're wrong. You're right, you're wrong. On the bottom, both positions are right and you're both correct. On the left, you are right and the other person is wrong. And then in the middle, there's truth in all positions. Everything is correct. So in that, there's just a feeling of expansiveness and a relief. You can connect intimately again with your partner on that level. So again, I just want to thank you all for being here. I had such a great time talking about this. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon, and please continue to support and follow my channel. Really grateful that you're all here.